Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this spooktacular Spinsterella story. Pick up your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Many of the print-on-demand publishers out here have been starting to get real goofy as related to their policies as related to publishing books. Now, when I first came into print-on-demand publishing in 2002, I worked with a company named Virtual Bookworm, and they did a great job of publishing the first Isis and Cassandra cookbook. And as I went to start my own publishing imprint, SJS Direct, in 2009, self-publishing through print on demand was a pretty good place to be creative, and there was a lot of open space to go out here and express yourself creatively. And as there was a lot of open space to express yourself creatively, people basically had realistic expectations as related to getting a book published through print on demand. And most people basically went out here and put up their stories, and as they put up their stories, people went out here and picked up these books with realistic expectations, understanding that these books weren't going to be absolutely perfect because they basically came from an individual who was working on their own. Now, many people who went out here and bought print-on-demand books, whether it be in paperback or an ebook that came around 2011, understood that when it came down to these books, they basically were the work of one author, and it was the work of one author who in most cases usually worked on their own on the weekends or when they had time after work. So that meant that, yeah, this was a project that was going to be something that wasn't going to be absolutely perfect, but it was something made by someone who had passion for the story that they were telling. And since they had passion for the story that they were telling, they went out here and were working diligently to make these books the best that they were. Now, there were people who were a part of trade publishing who went out here and scoffed at many of these books, many people mocking people because they didn't have a so-called perfect cover from a artist, or they didn't have, they used stock photos, or they basically wanted to ridicule people as related to the punctuation and grammar because they weren't absolutely perfect. But as someone who's been out here and gone and done the self-publishing of his own books, I can tell you the reasons why those books aren't ever going to be absolutely perfect. And the reason why they're not going to be absolutely perfect is because this is a book produced by a single person, usually all by themselves. And as a book is being produced by a single individual all by themselves, who is basically coming to work on these books, usually in their spare time, such as their time after work. They come home after possibly 5 o'clock, after eating their dinner. They go out here and work on their book for maybe about 2, maybe 3 hours. And then after they work on their book, after eating their dinner, they basically go to bed and get ready to go back to work. And sometimes they wind up working, possibly getting a couple of hours on the weekends after you finish running errands, possibly Saturday night and Sunday night. So a person has a very limited schedule as related to working on their book. So people basically, as they're looking to try to edit this book on their own, they are just doing this basically something that they're doing on the side. And a lot of cases, people are not going to be, again, really knowledgeable as related to punctuation and grammar. I mean, not everybody has a copy of Elements of Style or the Bedford English Handbook on hand when they're working on these books. No, they're just going by what basically sounds right to them and what basically makes them feel good as related to that story. And as they're working on that book, this is just something that they're doing on the weekends. I mean, it's very similar to what people did when they were being webmasters. They would basically create content back then when they had the time to do it as they were working around their day job, and it wasn't going to be absolutely perfect coming out the gate. And people understood this back in the early days of the World Wide Web, except those who worked in the publishing industry who wanted to make mockery of print-on-demand books. But as time has gone on, I've seen a lot of people these days who are working at these kind of places having the similar attitude to those people who were in trade publishing, early on as related to print-on-demand books, and they're coming in with a lot of unrealistic expectations as related to these type of books that people again are working on it on their weekends and on when they have some time after work, and they come in with an unrealistic expectation, expecting these books to be absolutely perfect when it comes down to books that are now coming out of trade publishing houses. They're not perfect themselves. And that's where I start to see a real serious problem at many of these publishing houses, at these printers, is that they're starting to act like publishers, and you're getting a lot of people who work there who are starting to have really snotty attitudes. And these snotty attitudes are basically things that they're having, talking about that, they want the books to be absolutely perfect, but that's just not the case at all. No, in many cases, many people are coming out again on their weekends and the times they have after work. That's the only time they have to put this book together. So you're expecting a person who's working on their own to have the book to be on the same level as a trade publishing house where they have an entire staff of editors who are again managing editors. You have editors who are coordinating the project, and they can go out here and hire freelancers like proofreaders and line editors to check out that entire book from first page to last. Whereas a guy, a girl working in their house, they ain't got that type of stuff. And even if they did, basically, when they put a book together like that, it's going to be really pricey because again, when you're putting a book together, again, if you have to bring people in, again, a editor, if you hire them, they're going to charge you anywhere from $700 to about $1,500 just for a 50,000 word book. If it's more, they're going to charge you maybe $2,000-$3,000, and that's a lot of money for somebody's passion project to ask them to invest in a book that usually most of the time is going to wind up losing money at the end of the day, because when it comes down to independent books made by self-publishers, usually most of those books take a huge loss. And what I see from many of these companies, like many of these print-on-demand places, they're sitting there asking people to invest a whole lot of money when originally print-on-demand was meant to be a kind of cheap thing. I mean, usually back in the day when I was publishing SJS Direct books on Lightning Source, basically I only spent about $260 in most cases, and most of that was $175 for the ISBN and the barcode, and then I had to spend money on upload fees. So most people coming into this were not coming in this, again, looking to go out here and make a huge profit, because usually these books don't sell thousands of copies at all. No, they don't really sell a lot of copies as related to print books. But you've got people out here who are now today expecting people to invest this type of money into their own self-published books and wanting to invest them because some of these companies basically are upset. Oh, this customer is complaining about issues as related to grammar, spelling, and punctuation. They're complaining about those type of things, not understanding if you buy a book that's independently published, these things are gonna be part of the experience because you have one person, in many cases, working on their own in the spare time that they have. So they're not really gonna be focused on all of the minute details. No, many of those people are not gonna be focused on those minute details because they basically are trying to get this book done and they want the book to be perfect. Let you understand, you want the book to be perfect, but you only have one set of eyes and you can't really focus on every minute detail of every page of a book that's anywhere from, I would say, 75 pages, like in the case of many of my ISIS series books, all the way up to books being possibly either 2 or 3, or even like in the case of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer, a 640-page book. No, that type of work, again, that type of look, nobody has that type of meticulous attention to detail. No, nobody really has that at all. And it's ridiculous to expect someone who's basically, again, working on their own to make a book that's absolutely perfect. And I see that all the time. And again, I see that many of these companies, they hear the complaints from many of these people who are sitting there grousing. But the whole thing is, when you buy an independent book, you're basically buying a book, taking a risk on the concept. and you're taking a risk on the concept, and you understand that this person is working to the best of their ability, and they want people like myself. Yes, we want to improve, but we're only one person, and there's only so much we can do. There's only so much we can do as related to making a book perfect. I mean, I know for myself, I may work on a first draft of a book, like an ISIS series book, and put it together in 2 weeks, but it takes me an entire year to do the editing, and even with that, all that year, I'm still, again, still do get mistakes here and there. It just happens as part of the business. And again, if I had more money, I would love to hire people, but the whole thing is that when you have the sales on these books, they just don't generate enough sales for you to be able to bring in other freelancers. And that's what people really don't understand about things, especially now who are working at these companies. They're not understanding that, again, creators don't have that type of money to go out here and pour into a book that basically may get under 100 copies in sales, or at best over a period of time. I mean, that's the best that they're going to do. So you're expecting, again, people to have money just like they were back in the day. I mean, back in the day, independent publishing really cost a lot of money. It really cost a bunch of money back in the day. It cost almost $20,000-$30,000. And from the way many of these people at these companies are acting, it's basically them acting like, oh, we want to go back to that whole standard. But the whole thing is, if you go back to that standard, then you won't have many independent writers going out here putting their work out on the marketplace. Now, I've also seen another issue come up as related to independent publishing, where you've got a lot of people who basically don't understand how the competition works. And I've submitted books to different places, and you'll have people talking about, oh, this title, we're having issues with this title. And I'm sitting up there saying, you know, you can't copyright a title. But what I believe is happening in these houses is you've got people who are upset as related to copyright, thinking, oh, if the book has a similar title, that means that that person is either, one, stealing somebody else's book, which is absolutely ridiculous, and two, you have individuals who are basically looking to create covert contracts with publishing houses as related to the release of newer titles. And what they don't understand is that unless somebody comes to you and says they are filing a DCMA as related to copyright and related to a violation of copyright, there's no issue as related to title, because you can't copyright a title. No, you can't copyright a title at all. But you've got folks out here who think, oh, because a book has a similar title, oh, somebody's stealing that book, so we have to go do an investigation, which is absolutely ridiculous, because, again, there are lots of books that have basic titles like The Journey or something like that. I mean, this is a title of a book that's fairly common, and it doesn't mean that somebody stole somebody else's book, nor does it mean that if you, again, look to keep this book from being published, it's going to help another publisher be able to get an advantage in the market. Because when it comes down to independent books, basically, there are 5 to 10 million of these books that come out every year. I mean, there are 5 to 10 million of these books that come out every year. So a lot of folks out here are sitting up there thinking, oh, he's got the same book. Yeah, that's just going to happen with the same title. And it doesn't matter when it comes out. No, it don't matter when it come out, because according to what I've learned for many years, 90% of books fail. So 90% of the books that are getting published are not going to go out here and make a return on their income. No, they're not going to go out here and make a return on their investment as related to publishing over the course of 6 months to a year. Usually most books, when they're published within 6 months to a year, basically don't make a profit, and some after 3 to 5 years basically wind up, again, never making a profit. And when it comes down to independent self-publishers, again, many books take a loss, and again, many of the publishers continue to take losses and will basically do like any other trade publisher, wind up taking a loss on a book, taking a loss on one of these books. And basically, many of these books won't earn out over the course of time as related to that writer's work as they work every day, putting that story together, editing that book. again, working and designing the cover. Again, a lot of books, basically, they won't earn out anything because they don't sell enough copies to basically pull a profit. But you've got people who are now working in this independent publishing, and they have delusions of grandeur, delusions believing, oh, this book is, we got to protect this other writer as related to their title. We've got people out here thinking, oh, the writing is going to be absolutely perfect. And no, that's not the case at all. No, even in the case of trade published books, the books are not perfect. And that's even with a staff of editors. Many books, and even comic books I've seen, have not been absolutely perfect because it's a lot of stress putting these publications out over the course of time. And many publishers like myself, we're going to put together the best book we possibly can. Again, when I come out here, I try to put my best work together, and sometimes you do wind up missing things here and there. It's just going to happen as related to things. You may not notice it until much later on that you're going to miss a typo here or there. And again, it's not deliberate. It's not malicious at all. No, not deliberate or malicious at all as related to things. It's just part of the business and part of the business. And again, that's something people understand when they pick up an independent published book, that, it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be super perfect, but it's going to be the best quality that writer is going to put together. It's going to be the very best that writer puts together as related to their work. It's going to be of the highest quality as we can do. And again, over time, we will work to improve, like I do over here at SJS Direct. Again, it's just something we try to do, is keep trying to push to improve. And people just have to understand, again, as related to their expectations, again, things are not going to be like many of these trade books. But a lot of people, they want to come in with unrealistic expectations. And many retailers want to come in and say, oh, this is going to lead to a bad customer experience. And I sit there and I say, if you're a customer, you buy an independent book, you're going to expect certain things. I know, because I've been buying independent comics and independent books for years, and I understand, again, this is a one-man operation, one-woman operation in most cases, and it's not going to be, again, what comes from from a trade publisher where they have a staff. And I also understand that, again, some of these companies, they're just getting so technical as related to their categories and all of this stuff, and they're making it just that much harder to be able to do this type of work. I mean, one of the things that's really frustrating is that you try to put together books and put them again in different categories, and people are sitting there getting upset over minutia, getting upset over minor details, and it just makes it just that much harder to get books out there as related to things, because people have ridiculous expectations. I mean, even in these companies, they're just saying, oh, well, we want to go out here and, oh, we want to make sure that the customers, like I write many YA books, they'll say, oh, this book isn't YA, but even though it's featuring 20-something characters. And on one website, I had put Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer up, and they were talking about, and it was a book set in the year 2000, and they took it out of the category of Y2K, historical fiction, when it was a piece of Y2K historical fiction. The story is set in the year 2000, and this is the type of insanity that we have to deal with as related to things. I mean, I know that, again, there's millions of books coming out, but these companies really, they need to take a chill pill as related to things. They really need to take a chill pill, because what they're doing is basically, again, making things harder. Yeah, I know there's 5 million books coming out every year, but in that 5 million books, you have to understand that you need to respect many of the creators, because if there was no creators making content, you wouldn't have any content for sale. And the whole thing is, I don't want to see this whole space ruined by book snobs who basically come in, and again, they're expecting perfection. But again, and then you have these entitled types who basically feel like they're entitled to us books of a certain length. This is another issue I've run into. You run into people who feel like they're entitled to a certain type of book, and expect absolute perfection, even if it's a free ebook. I mean, these are people who have a sense of entitlement, who feel owed everything, and they make, again, the work of a creator much harder, make it much harder as related to things. And many creators, again, we just want to put out really the best books we possibly can. And again, people working from the best of their ability. And it makes it a real nightmare these days because people just have this just distorted expectation as related to creatives who are working on their own, just have completely unrealistic expectations as related to independent published books. And I wish we could get back to the environment of the early 2010s and late 2000s, where people were a bit more civil and were a bit more cordial and professional about things, and understanding that an independent book is not going to be as like one from a trade publishing house, but if there's a good story there, it's worth it to take a risk on that story. It's worth it to take a risk on that story because it's the best of that writer's ability at that time. And the whole thing is that writer's putting together a concept that they couldn't get to any other marketplace. So we're doing the best that we can to get books to the marketplace. That's what I try to do every year, trying to do my best to put books and hopefully more comics to the marketplace. And the whole thing is we can only do that with your support. And the whole thing is we're trying to get these books to the marketplace. But the whole thing is when you get roadblocks put in front of you, it makes it just that much harder. Makes it just that much harder to be able to go out here and put these type of books together in our spare time and on our weekends. I mean, putting these type of books together, again, takes hours out here. And basically, it's so much work. And again, so much work out here. And a lot of people don't understand or appreciate the hard work many writers like myself put into these books to get them to the marketplace and get them to the marketplace to be a unique story that every one of our customers can go out here and enjoy. Now, if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct Imprint, which I've written to the best of my ability and edited to the best of my ability, you can pick those books up on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos talking about publishing and being creative, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA, from the Black Boule, in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.